Hi, my name is Brittany and welcome to my channel, Pineapple Grease. Like and subscribe and all that. And well, today we're going to be talking about a little manga called Bibliomania. And it's a strange one. So this is a really short story. It's only, I think, 12 chapters. So I recommend that you go and read it first and then come and talk to me about it. But if you want me to spoil you, you can stay. The very basic synopsis of it is that it's about this girl named Alice who we see her wake up in this sort of like magic place, and she's in room, I think, 431 or something. And she's told that to get back to the real world, she has to get to room 0, but the further she gets from her room, her body will start to rot, and so she won't be able to make it to room 0. And in this dream world, in your room, you can have whatever you want or whatever you dream of. Like, you can live your own reality and make things how you want. And so this weird snake guy asks Alice, the main character, he's like, oh, don't you want to just stay here and have whatever you want? And she says no, she doesn't like lies. She wants to go live in the real world. So she embarks to try and make it to room 0, despite the fact that she's gonna probably rot and die before she gets there. And so that's the end of the non-spoiler section. So if you have read it or if you don't care about being spoiled, then stay and discuss the rest with me. So for me, this story was kind of a letdown. It was like the story of ultimate potential and then just ruined at the end for me. Like, the art was so good. Oh, I mean, I guess you can be here for this still if you're not wanting to, I don't know, like, this isn't spoiling it yet. But the art, it was so good. And it's so interesting because none of the lines are perfect. They're all like these choppy, weird, not straight, fluid lines. And so it's very interesting to look at. And even the borders, like the panels of all the pictures and stuff, they're all choppy and weird too. And then the details in things like the background are so intense. And then it's got such a contrast to when the characters are sometimes really simple. And then when things go crazy, the details get like so intense. Like, they're really, the mangaka, I don't remember their name. I'll include that in the description. But they're really good at doing all those little details. And they like, especially when things get like creepy and gross and stuff, like they make it so well done. And the story was just so intriguing to me, of all these people that you see who they're living their like creepy dream lives that are mostly messed up. Like, you get that guy who's chopping everybody's heads off, and you get, you know, the weird person that decided they wanted to be a bird and fly above everything and doesn't have to worry about anything. And the creepiest, like, there's that guy who he didn't want time to change. He's just gonna stay in his perfect creepy reality, and they like eat clocks and stuff, and it's very strange. Like, there's a lot of really disturbing stuff. I don't know if anyone else, like, for me, that's not a big deal. Like, I kind of enjoy it, like, where I'm like, ooh, interesting, strange. And I really was intrigued by the mystery of like, okay, what is this world? Like, what's happening with the world outside? Because like the regular world, when we see Alice just like walking around in the beginning, it's like no one's there. It's very confusing about what's going on. And then you have the weird snake guy who he's sometimes acts kind of nice to Alice, and then he's also like clearly evil and wants to just get as many people to go to his party to come and be in his chamber, and he's like hoping she'll die basically or go back to her room. And it's just so strange. And I don't know, the way he's drawn is really cool. Like, he has those crazy eyes that are all like scribbly, and I like, it was so confusing. And I really, that's the part of the story that I liked. Like, I really liked the puzzle of it, of like trying to figure out, oh, what's going on? Is Alice the monster? Because clearly something's not right with her. She's such a weird character because she seems like she goes into this room with people like getting their heads chopped off and stuff like that, and she's so chill about it and is just like, nah, I'm just gonna keep going. Like her body's rotting away and she's like, nah, this is fine. I'm just gonna hit the next room. No worries here. And it's just like a normal person wouldn't be like that. So from the start, you very much get the sense that like something is weird about Alice. Like she's strange and kind of uncomfortable. And then you go on and you're like, something's weird with Alice, but you don't know, and you get like little bits and pieces where you're like, maybe this. And I liked thinking about that, and I liked the idea of like, people all want to shape their own realities, and it's like, it's basically all about kind of escapism to some extent. Like everybody's trying to just escape the real world and be like, they would rather be in these fake worlds. They don't care to try and move on for the most part. Everyone kind of just wants to stay there because why would you want to leave when you could have anything you wanted? And it's so like, it's such an interesting idea of like, well, would you leave? Like, you have everything you want. You could read manga all the time and that will be your life and nobody will judge you for it. You could be like that one guy that basically recreates a video game and nobody has to tell him to do anything, even though he's like a fat loser. But yeah, so it's just a really interesting concept. I just thought the ending was so lame. Like, I read it up till maybe chapter 9 or something, like right when she makes it out, and you're already like, oh my gosh, what's happening with the fact that she can just weirdly regenerate? And he's like, oh, but she's dying over and over. How does this work? And here I'm like, I don't know. How does it work? Like, I'm trying to think of all these different ideas of like, oh, maybe, I don't know, there's something special about her. Is she the monster from the beginning? What's going on? Or is the snake the monster in the beginning? Because people refer to it as a snake, as like a red herring, I think, to try and make you think that it's the one guy, even though it's not. And it's just like all this buildup. And then I felt like they explained too much the ending. Like I wanted them to almost leave me with questions still at the end, instead of having her be like, oh yeah, I was this magic princess that I was able to like absorb knowledge magically, and then I did that and became like a book and absorbed the knowledge of everybody, and by like eating them. Like it was so weird, but not in a fun way as much as it was before. Like before it was weird in a like, oh, this is really cool, but then the explanation was kind of just like magic, weird stuff. It was just, she was magic and she just kind of ate everybody. The end. And like the fact that there was just this whole like weird fight against her with the books and stuff, it just felt, I don't know, I was not a fan anymore. I kind of felt like, oh, that was a lame reason. And I don't know, I just felt like they could have done so much more. Like she could have been something more interesting, or even if she was something more mundane but had like some sort of like, I don't know, goodness about her or something special about her that wasn't so like, I'm just a magic monster that's way better than you, tiny monster. And like the fact that it ends with just like, oh, she ate everybody, no one's around anymore, the end. It was kind of like, oh, well, that's lame. And the fact that they had this whole weird war of like books where they're like, oh, we had to, like, they bomb her with books to like try and, I don't know, stop her, and that's what works. And they like seal her in a magic bubble of books, and then they made like their own. Like, first of all, who the heck would think like, to fight this thing that eats people, let's make other ones that are gonna also eat people knowledge? Like, that makes sense. That doesn't make any sense. Was the idea to like, oh, if she reads it then it'll eat her? But which I guess it does, because she opens it and reads it or whatever, and then she gets sucked into it, but she's just way too powerful, so it doesn't work. And I don't know. It just, ugh. The end was such a letdown. Like, it had so much potential to be so good because the art was so good. It was so creepy and weird and confusing. But then just like the resolution was stupid. Like, I didn't care for it. And then the whole end is just like, nobody's here anymore. I ate them all. And for me, like, I don't need an end to be super happy. And usually I like to have all my questions answered because it's nice that way. But the way this story was, I had a lot more fun imagining what the answers were than I did find when I found out what the answers were. Like, I didn't like finding out because it was stupid. And I wish they'd left a little bit of that, like, what's going on, even at the end. But instead it was just like, nope, they answered every single one of the questions basically, even though they answered them terribly, and then we're just left with nothing. And the ending doesn't have to be happy. Like, I'm not upset that, like, oh, everyone's gone, it's so sad, and that's a terrible ending. Like, sometimes a sad ending is good, but it was just the fact that the ending was so like so boring. Like, it was so boring. It was, the whole story was going upwards trajectory of like, what's going on, we're gonna find out, oh my gosh, she made it out, and then she makes it out and we're just like, what? The end. I don't know. And the flashbacks were boring. I didn't understand how she's like this magic stick princess that eats people, and I was sad, but it was still an interesting read. It's just like, had the potential to be much better than it was, and it really wasn't great in the end, which is such a shame. But I don't know. I'm glad I read it. I think if you still want to read it now that I kind of spoiled everything, it might still be worth it. I really liked the look of her when she gets super grotesque and is like going through the rooms and she gets like really gross. That was so cool. Like, the art is so cool and they're so good at making it like creepy, and all the backgrounds are so detailed, and it was beautiful to look at. But it was just like the story fell flat for me at the end. And so I don't know, I probably wouldn't read it again. But I'm not disappointed that I read it. I'm just disappointed with the end. I think it was still a worthwhile read to some extent, but definitely not one of my favorites or one of my lower favorites. And I don't know. I don't read a lot of this type of thing. Usually my go-to is, shoujo. That's what I mostly have, and that's what I mostly read. But I read a little bit of other stuff, and I think I hold it to a higher standard because since it doesn't have that like romance and cute stuff going on, I like want it to be much cooler and make more sense. I don't know, like, it needs to be better put together for me to be able to be like, good job, because there's just not enough otherwise. Because if it's not like, it needs something to wow you, to make you feel something. And if it doesn't have that, like, ooh, what is this? What's going on? Or like that, like, that's so cool. Like, you need some sort of thing like that makes you feel something. And this, I felt that throughout the story until like the last 2 or 3 chapters where I was like, oh. And then the end. It was such a bummer. But whatever, that's my thoughts on Bibliomania. So let me know if you agree. Maybe you love the story. Maybe you think the ending is amazing. I don't know. I'm not you. I disagree, but you're entitled to your opinion, and don't be offended or whatever, even though you're wrong. But yeah, so like and subscribe and comment and let me know your thoughts. I would be so happy to hear from you. All right, have a nice day. Bye.